So what now? Oh,
Is it there yet? Oh, there we are. Now we're here.
I caught wind that told Pink a 70-year-old lady watches our show every week.
Yeah.
We're getting big in the old folks' home.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'll take them how I can get them.
In the sack and out. That's pretty good, Bubba.
Yeah, man.
You're a leading light in the community.
Hey, I'll be there one day, so why not get a head start?
That's one of the things. Why do it until you have to?
I don't even know what they're doing while they're watching the show, though.
Like I don't know. Maybe they're masturbating.
You know they say that they get busy in them homes, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you ain't got nothing else to do.
Yeah, really. You don't have the burden of a job or anything. You just sit around and swallow Viagra like Tic Tacs and go.
No, these mics are hot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I usually say hot mics, but I think he caught the cue.
Got the cue. But yeah. Tic Tacs, those little mint things. Yeah.
Why did they go out of style? Tic Tacs. People used to keep those things around all the time.
I use the lifesaver mints. Like I have those in my office all the time.
I like the Mentos gum.
Nah, I don't like the gum. I'm not a gum guy. Yeah. Yeah. The lifesaver mints are quality.
Yeah, those are big. Those are always the spearmint ones anyway.
Yeah.
Like the green wrapper.
Yeah. I'll do the green or blue. What is the blue one?
Like the ice burst or whatever.
Ice burst. Okay. Solid. I'll take it.
Welcome back. You guys are back on the Bench Podcast, home of sports, music, and mayhem. May help if I hit that record button for our Spotify and Apple Music guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't forget we're available on all, and I do mean all podcast streaming platforms, including here on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Yes. What's going on, Pink?
Not too much, man.
Not too much.
My team France won today.
France.
Yeah.
One time for the Frenchmen.
3-0 in a tune-up against Luxembourg.
Oh, man.
Live ammunition begins next week.
You're speaking a different language to me.
Well, the European Championships begin next week, Bubba. So
maybe we'll see. You said next week or next month?
Next week.
I was gonna say maybe we'll see Luka in the stands, but he'll be in the games.
He'll probably be. It'll be over before the end.
Maybe we'll see Embiid in the stands.
Yeah.
He's a big soccer guy.
He was at the Champions League final.
I know you sent me he was on the show, one of those shows.
And Draymond Green was there.
Yeah.
Jay-Z was there. Hey, if what they're saying about Jay-Z being on Diddy's level and DJ Khaled, it's worth noting that one of the Real Madrid Predators is represented by Rock Nation, this Brazilian guy, Vinny Jr. And 2 days after the final, he was at DJ Khaled's house giving a soccer lesson to his kids.
Mm.
So his booty hole might be a little
in
warm.
jeopardy.
Yeah. In play, in jeopardy. Stay away from those
I saw this
sexual abusers.
I saw this thing going on Instagram today. Didn't want to make it a main topic, but just something that made me think about it.
Just a side topic.
It was saying how black couples have the highest divorce rates in the U.S. this year.
Just this year?
Yeah, 2024 already.
Wow.
So they're at 31%. Second is Latino. Then you have at 18.5%, and white at 15%.
Okay.
But already, like, the divorce rates 2023, 2024 are like shattering records of people like getting divorces.
Really?
Yeah, from previous years. And I in my mind, I'm like, I wonder how is this and why is this? A lot of it comes. I know, like, women are pressuring a lot of these guys to be married in the first place.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
And then I think some of it is by whatever it is, year 1, year 2, you're like, I need to get away from this shit.
What have I done?
Or either the guy then retaliates in his own way. Maybe he's out doing his own thing or whatever, and then the woman pushes for the divorce. I don't know. I don't know the actual reasons for this. Now I did ask. I had a chance to ask.
But was there a different leader like the year before? Like, was it not African Americans? Was it some other group that led previously?
I don't know. And I'm speaking more so just in the totality of divorce rates, not just an individual race, just in the totality of divorce rates. And so one I know one says that she said we marry for love, and it's really a business and always has been. That's the reason why the divorce rates is so high. Another one says no one plays their part, and they forget the friendship is the base of the marriage.
Okay.
That's another one.
Nobody plays their part.
Yeah.
I wonder what they're referring to.
I don't know. Maybe she's more traditional, and it's like nobody's playing. The man's whatever that in a traditional role, what you're supposed to do, and the woman whatever.
Yeah. The breadwinner, the homemaker.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I guess. I wonder if like COVID had like a chilling effect on divorces, and that you're kind of having like an overcompensation.
Yeah.
Because you got to realize, like, the courts were like largely like closed for a period of time, and then what that created, even I do personal injury, it created like a backlog when it kind of got moving again.
Yeah.
And so there's a thing, and also like if again, so many people were under financial duress in COVID too. Maybe you were just kind of like struggling to get by, whatever, and depending on what state you're in too, like the rules were more restrictive as to what you could do and didn't do. Now, when everyone gets back outside, it's kind of like, hey, I need to get the fuck away from this situation. It's just bad.
Are divorces like, do you have to pay to get divorced?
Hell yeah.
Like a fee or like what do you mean? Like
like any court proceeding, there's going to be a filing fee, which could be $300 or $400 just to file the paperwork to get the divorce. Now, if you're also going to get attorneys involved, it's not going to be like an agreed divorce where – now, I mean, you can, in the path of least resistance, you can basically have essentially like a friendly or uncontested divorce where you and your partner you do have to file, so there's going to be a couple $100 to do that, but you could be without attorneys. You can basically draft up your own agreement. There's forms to do that as to how to divide assets or responsibilities. And if everything's agreed between the two people, you basically submit that to the court and request them to enter an order, ending the divorce, ending the marriage. And that's the cheapest route to go. But if the people are going to lawyer up, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars.
And lawyering up is mostly for like if there are, houses, cars, children,
but I would
assets
think,
involved.
if there's assets or there's children. Those, either one of those is going to usually create a situation where there's something to fight over or potentially fight over. And then you're going to have to go through the process there. And again, then you get on the court's calendar, things can get drug along, people will get delayed. You'll probably get sent to like a mediation of some sort to have a chance to work out some sort of agreement. But the more you fight, the more you spend.
Yeah.
And the more uncertainty there is as to what that outcome's going to look like.
That's terrible.
Yeah. It's horrible. I mean, it's not a fair way to do things at all.
Yeah.
And that's why we've said in the past, like, when you get legally married, the only thing that changes about your relationship in reality is the state that you're in now has the ability to divide your assets if you decide you don't want to do this any further. That's all you've accomplished with marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like a religious person and all that nonsense and you believe in that, maybe there's some mental, spiritual value to being married, but all you're really doing is just allowing the state into your relationship if things go south. They have the control at the end of the day if you can't agree with your partner as to what to do.
I don't know why that's I have no idea why it's such a huge fucking deal. I don't. We're not gonna get. Let's not get into that. I'd rather have that argument with the woman so we can change life and change America.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna do that with just us two here. Alrighty.
You've given up on us.
But what we will do with us two here, okay, if I can find it here, and I think I have, we will be talking about the NBA Finals today, of course, and LeBron James on his latest podcast had some remarks about Kyrie. Okay, Florida High School Athletic Association, they have passed a law or whatever, if you will, that will allow students to get to be a part of NIL deals. Okay, and a lot of other stuff we're going to be talking about. Caitlin Clark, part 2 of this Atlanta story series that I'm going through here, and some other things there as well today. Mbappe, okay, all righty, Pink's man. Alrighty, a lot of people's bands. He's the top guy right now. He's the guy with the gun. Okay.
The guy with the gun.
Figuratively speaking, of
Okay.
course. Let's start here. We went basketball last week's show. We'll start it off this week. Did you see what LeBron in the comments he made on the podcast?
Yeah.
Mind the Game.
Yeah.
Talking about Kyrie, how he misses Kyrie. Says Kyrie is the most gifted player of all time. I don't think he meant that, right? LeBron is very well spoken and things of that nature, but you get into the minute things of gifted versus skilled and what have you. Like, we know what he was trying to say, and but gifted is something completely different, in my opinion, than being skilled. I would say people like Wembanyama is gifted. LeBron James is gifted.
LeBron himself, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wilt would be gifted.
Huh?
Wilt would be gifted.
Wilt, people like that.
Gifted is when, to me, what I'm thinking of in terms of gifted is you have something that you're born with that's just advantageous.
Yeah.
And that, like ridiculous size and mobility combinations
Giannis,
and things like that.
Greek freak.
Yeah,
anytime freak is after your name. Well,
Yeah. No diddy.
No diddy. But yeah.
We used to be free to say what you were trying to say.
Yeah, I know, right?
And now we have to exercise caution. But yeah, that's that thing. Like when somebody just is like literally from birth just has some special combination of size or speed or strength or something of that nature.
Now, even as far as skilled, I'm on the other side of that argument. What's going on, Eb? I'm on the other side of that argument. I do think Kyrie is one of the most skilled players of all time, but I can't get to the most skilled. Number one, it's all argumentative, but I add things to skills that other people just don't value.
Such as?
I think lockdown defenders, I think that is a skill. You know what I mean? I think Gary Payton and Scottie Pippen and I think those guys are very highly skilled, you know what I mean? Versus being able to just shoot, dribble, and all of those things. And even for that matter, even if you dismiss my argument, which is crazy in a sense, I believe Steph Curry is more skilled than Kyrie. Because Kyrie is the best ball handler of all time, but I mean Steph is top 5. Kyrie can finish very well, has different finishing packages and all of that. But again, Steph is top 5. But Steph is also with a more deadly skill, with him being the greatest shooter of all time. That is a skill which Kyrie is not top 5 or top 10 in. He's a good shooter, but he's nowhere in that class.
It's not an elite category.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could say, like Steph's margin in shooting is greater than any advantage Kyrie may have in ball handling or finishing.
Yeah.
Like Steph's closer to him in those two categories than he is to Steph in shooting. And in that math, you could make that argument.
Exactly. So, but in any event, I mean, he's a crazily skilled guard. Those are just like minute arguments that you can have and you can be mad about. And one of the biggest things is, first of all, it's just been too damn long between the conference finals and the NBA finals. So in that time, you have to, bring up BS to talk about and stuff like that.
I mean, I took LeBron's comment as a genuine statement of admiration for Kyrie.
Yeah, that's it.
I took it as somewhat of a regret on his part that it didn't work better or work longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I also took it as a bit of regret on a personal level that he's not right now where Luka is. And that's what those three things is what I took it as.
Yeah, that's all fair. I think I agree with most of that. What's also an interesting thing, because people, they think that LeBron runs the Lakers or runs the show everywhere he goes. And I know if it was up to him, Kyrie would still be on that team or would be on the Lakers some way, form, or fashion. You know what I mean? Now, they did release some news that the Lakers did make a trade request for Kyrie.
Right.
Okay, Dallas ended up outbidding, and the Lakers weren't willing to meet or beat that asking price. All right, but also here, what you have is then you have is this LeBron saying he wants Kyrie next year? Is this him saying that he believes Kyrie is his best running mate he's ever had? Where do you land on that?
I didn't take it as. I also heard another story though that like LeBron was trying to get Kyrie to come to the Lakers this past offseason, but Kyrie wanted LeBron to come to Dallas.
Yeah.
And they couldn't kind of come to an agreement on that. And so, no, I don't, you could make an argument that Kyrie is his best ever teammate, but you also got to look at it in the context of currency. Because it's like, and I know you're not a huge Dwayne Wade guy, but it's easy to say because Kyrie's playing at finals level basketball and Dwayne Wade's several years retired. It's hard to compare and feel. Like when you're living in the moment, you're still actively in the league like LeBron is, your frame of reference is going to be to guys that are like currently playing too. I do think that there's a recency bias in that sort of comment. And I'm fine with it. It is what it is. And maybe he genuinely feels that way. But I do think his present statement is flavored by the recency of Kyrie playing at this level right now, where basically every other teammate LeBron's had is retired, other than the shitty Laker teammates.
Yeah, and that LeBron to Dallas would not have worked in any form or fashion.
No, most likely not.
It wouldn't have happened. No. It wouldn't have worked. Not with Luka there,
But when you one of the things I do find it interesting is that if the Lakers made a move for Kyrie and were outbid, I don't like getting outbid. I don't like it at that level of a move. I think if you're talking about roster filler moves, lower tier free agents, guys like that, maybe it makes sense to not bind yourself to those types of players long term, or to maybe get them on favorable terms. I understand that completely. I'm with it. But if you make a decision that, that's the star I want, stop fucking around. Go get it. Go do whatever it takes to get. I think when you look at these situations, we got outbid. I'm not going to accept that. If I'm an owner, I'm not going to accept it. If I'm a coach, I'm not going to accept it. We're not making flippant decisions.
I disagree.
No, I mean, here's the thing. If you're doing this right, you're not making flippant decisions. You're studying the situation. You're studying your team. You're studying the players available, and you've targeted a guy. That's the guy that we want. Don't get outbid. Do what it takes.
It's very at this. We've had of course, but we've had enough information and enough deals to know now it is rare that a star becomes worth the package in the NBA that he is traded for. Like there are so many big moves that have happened for big stars that has not worked for the team that he was traded to. You know what I mean? Most recently Phoenix, that was a terrible deal to get KD. Shea for Paul George. Paul George going to, that's a terrible deal. And I could name a bunch of them.
But here's okay.
There has to be a limit. There has to be a limit to say we cannot go over this. Unless now it has to, unless it's a generational star in their prime of prime, and then in that case, nobody's trading
Well,
him anyway.
the couple things you mentioned, like the prime of prime, like that's if you're throwing the kitchen sink to get like guys on the back end of the career, it's not a good move. But if you're and I wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't be of the mindset to get guys on the back end of the career. I would make moves for guys in their mid-20s. And if you're over 30, I'm not making a move for you as a core player. I'll move for a guy as a bench piece. But that's how I believe teams and franchises should be built. But you go all in and make the bold moves for the guys that are in their literal prime. Like if you had a disgruntled Anthony Edwards, like you do whatever it takes.
Not that I agree.
And that's what I would target. And it's like if I'm the Spurs, that's what I'm doing. I'm tampering if I have to. Like that's what we're doing. I'm going to match the two kind of like generational talents of this moment.
You're sending Wemby his address.
Yeah, I'm whatever it takes, man. We're just we'll whatever it takes, man.
One of the funniest
Black Ops if necessary.
One of the funniest things is when they said Kawhi used Drake House to recruit Paul George to the Clippers.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But that's also like if you look back at that move, and I think everyone would agree.
Which one?
The Paul George and Shea. But the thing about that, and I like it was Kawhi's move. It wasn't the team's move.
Yeah.
It was like he wanted Paul George. He wasn't. I guess apparently interested in playing with Shea or figuring out what exact talent you had in that man. And, he wanted to make the move, and they felt they needed to go all in to appease him and do that. And that's a more precarious ground than if you as an organization, assess players, target them, and go get them.
Now, do you believe that Kyrie has been LeBron's best running mate?
The reality of when they played together, I don't think so. I mean, I do think that the Heat teams with Wade reached a higher level than what they did. And I'm still of the school that the 2016 title was tainted
because
the Draymond Green suspension.
Oh,
so I mean, those two guys were spectacular over the last 3 games and the comeback in the series. So credit to them. Can't take that away. But he got injured in one of the finals. And then in the other two, they really weren't competitive. So I mean, it's there's an argument. It's not conclusive. But I also like if you remember back on that time, it wasn't always harmonious.
But between Kyrie and LeBron,
yeah, like LeBron would throw some shots about like the 0 or 1 assist and some of those things. Like it wasn't like they immediately. And throughout the time. And then when he left, like supposedly like the last playoffs, like he didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah, Kyrie.
It was not, I do think there's a little bit of, what do you call that when you kind of remember back something in a fonder way than it actually was?
Yeah.
There's like a term for that. I do think you have a little bit of that going on.
Yeah. But at the same time, that's how LeBron left the Heat.
Yeah,
instead of it being the second man in Wade, I mean that's how LeBron left.
Yeah,
so a lot of the same similar situation there.
Yeah,
of course I think Kyrie. I think it's Kyrie, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
I look at it as
they only had 3 seasons together.
Which one?
Kyrie and LeBron.
Yeah, and
the first year was they got to the final, but Kyrie got hurt in game 1.
Mm-hmm.
The second year, they won with a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third year, they got beat by the Warriors super team and kind of faded. Like, Kyrie was not engaged down the stretch.
Yeah.
So you basically had 3 shining games.
Yeah. But I think you only got one good year out of D Wade with that bunch, and they lost that series. Nah. You had one, and what I mean by that is like. This for Kyrie with LeBron, he was a he was a star, like a real star. Dwayne Wade, that second time, the first year they were together, Dwayne Wade was a star and he was good, but they lost to the Mavericks. Okay, the second year he was only good, and that's when he began to get injured and all of that stuff. He wasn't like a star, you know what I mean? And he performed. He didn't perform well in the playoffs. That's another thing. He began to struggle mightily after that first year. The third year, he struggled immensely. Kyrie has never struggled with LeBron. He either was hurt or he was a superstar, a star on that level. You know what I mean? So that's another thing too. You have taint on those windows. You know what I mean? From Dwayne Wade, because he didn't perform well in a lot of those playoff series, in that third year.
I still feel that with peak LeBron, I do feel like they elevated each other for much of that time. And I know the fourth year was really bad down the stretch, but I don't know. I don't think it's a definitive thing one way or the other.
Yeah. Now, I saw this incredible story about Kyrie. I don't know if you knew. There was this random guy on the podcast, and apparently he knew Kyrie's father. Now, of course, the news about Kyrie signing his dad to yeah. So, of course, Kyrie's dad played professional ball, right? And after college, he tried to make it to the NBA and did not. And when he had Kyrie, he felt like, he needed to get a job. So he ended up working at I want to say it's CarMax, but it's basically he was a car salesman, basically.
Okay.
Right? And but he was the lead, he was the team leading scorer in college, okay, and won awards and things like that and did well. Played against Duke, all of that great stuff. Okay. Now he gets married, and that allows him, business-wise in the home, finances, to go overseas and play ball, okay?
Okay.
Now, as he's training Kyrie and everything and all of that good stuff, Kyrie is getting really good, so he decides to move back to Jersey and put him in, some good schools.
Yeah.
All right. The wife, which is Kyrie's mom, passes away. Okay, so Kyrie's around 10 or 11. She dies, and then after that, his dad was inside of one of those buildings in 2001 or whatever, when those planes hit in New York.
The Twin Towers?
Yeah, he was in one of those buildings. I know, I didn't know that.
Okay.
But he survived, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
he was on the first floor. He was on the first floor when those planes hit, and he got out of there and survived. I thought that would have been like a bigger story. So that story should have resurfaced around the Cavs series or something, because that's like an incredible story.
That is a pretty wild story.
And he got out, escaped, and then and then this Kyrie legend is born out of that. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, because you would.
grows
I mean,
up after
it's
that.
one of those things. I mean, obviously, if he had basically tragically lost both of his parents by 2001, would he have been able to keep himself together and get to what he's gotten today?
Exactly.
Definitely. That's pretty wild when you think about it.
Yeah, that's super wild, man. That's a wild story.
Close calls.
Now, how do you think Kyrie? You do think Kyrie is going to struggle at all in this series? And the reason why I ask is because a lot of people forget, a healthy Kyrie and a healthy KD played against a similar Boston Celtics team. I say similar because some of the ancillary pieces were different.
Yeah.
But he struggled. I mean, he struggled, and they got swept in that series by the Boston Celtics the last time he played them. You know what I mean? He was flipping off birds to the crowd.
It is possible, and the Celtics are good enough that Kyrie could be forced into having some subpar games. I don't think he's going to shit the bed and be terrible for the series. That would shock me. But, could he have a bad game or two over the 5, 6, 7 games? Absolutely. Could he have a series that we kind of look back and say collectively is kind of disappointing? Yeah, it's possible. But I just think he's in such a better place mentally than he was during the Nets time. The Nets time was a disaster on so many levels. That I think that it's just a different animal for him, and where he is right now mentally, I think he's in a much better place. I think he's mentally stronger and more resilient, And I would be shocked if he has like a truly bad, horrible series.
Yeah, me too. Me too, of course. But we'll see, man, because they have a lot of long, active defenders over there. So we'll definitely see. Once again, you guys are on the bench podcast with Bubba and Pink, home of sports, music, and mayhem.
The benefit, though, like, of the benefit of playing with Luka for Kyrie is that he doesn't have to force anything. He doesn't have to, necessarily carry a heavy burden. But more specifically, the way that manifests itself is he's able to pick his spots. And he doesn't have to force plays that aren't there. Because Luka's kind of, attracts attention, controls the ball, and Kyrie can just zip into plays and attack. And that's a little bit of what he's done. You'll have, if he gets rolling, you might have 3-4 possessions in a row where he's the lead attacking guy. But other times it's like, balls can be in Luka's hand or whatever, and then later in the possession, it swings to Kyrie and bang, he drives, hits a floater, or attacks and does something. But he doesn't have that burden of bringing it up every time, trying to execute any offense. And that's why his ideal environment is alongside a player like Luka or LeBron, where he doesn't have to be this guy that has the ball in his hands all the time. And it's not at all that he can't dribble up the floor against anybody, but it's just the burden of doing that and the places that you get the ball in. And it's fascinating because a lot of good but not good players, like players that have some skill and some ability, but they play with people that they don't trust, they end up having that ball in their hands all the time because they think they're the only guy capable of doing anything. And it makes the game so much harder to play. And Kyrie, with Luka and with LeBron, doesn't have to deal with that. Like those other guys, are going to handle it all plenty. And then when I get it, I get the opportunity to be decisive. I get to, step into a shot. I get to drive and create. I get to maybe get a quick pick and roll and go or whatever and just make the play that needs to be made. And I don't have to carry the burden of a lot of possession that's just not decisive possession.
And I think that's ultimately why the Kevin Durant experience didn't work. I you know what I really believe? I believe Kevin Durant would have been the second, like the best Robin, the second best player on the team in NBA history. But because, he is immensely talented, he's been miscasted as, the number one option on all of these teams. But his play style is just, like you said, Kyrie bodes well with those guys because those guys are high usage. They're going to set the table. And Kyrie doesn't have to do a lot of that stuff. Well, Kevin Durant isn't going to do a lot of that stuff.
Right.
He isn't bringing the ball up. He isn't creating action. He isn't setting the table. He's the one coming off these pin downs and these screens. He needs Kyrie. He needs a guard to do that.
That's why conceptually, offensively, that's why the Harden trio
would
seemed
have worked,
like it would have been the thing.
And when they were on the court, it did.
It did, yeah. Because Harden does that much like LeBron and Luka, and then you've got, KD coming off a pin down, spotting up, just running to spaces that he's comfortable, occasionally just working at ISO. And then you also kind of have Kyrie kind of doing the same where, Harden's moving it and then bang, you got this other guy who can just get and do whatever he needs to do. And that was the original concept of that being such a lethal dynamic.
Yeah.
But it just, nobody was healthy enough at the right times and it never really grew to be what it could have been.
No, for sure. All right, let's move it along here. I'm going to play a quick video here. We're going to talk about the Florida NIL. So, and the video explained, then we'll react here.
Yeah, they are going to decide if kids as young as 14 or 15 could soon start monetizing their name, image, and likeness, just like college athletes now do. News 6's
That's Dan LaForest, the wealth advisor privy to the ins and outs of NIL.
Do you think high schoolers should
have access to this?
I look at it as a great business lesson for a lot of these young people.
What concerns do you think some parents may have about this?
You know, I think the biggest concerns they need to be aware of are understanding what the rules are with the FHSA, because they don't want to get caught up in a situation where it could cost their child the ability to participate.
LaForest says the board's bylaws list penalties. One of them would make players ineligible for NIL deals for the duration of their time in high school. He suggests interested players and parents create a plan for how they'll take advantage of brand deals and ensure any legal document is reviewed by an attorney.
You love basketball.
I do.
Yeah. And you love watching her play basketball.
Most definitely. She's amazing.
Alrighty. Now that was
what was the last part for? It was like I thought it was going to keep going.
I did. I cut it. I cut it off. And the only reason why I left it on is because I'm. Oh man, let me that. It's because I'm pretty sure that's she's of some relation to Dale Murphy. She's a Murphy, and she goes to Lake Mary. So I'm like 98% sure, and I had every intention of messaging him beforehand, because apparently like the news went on to say like she's a star and this and that. I haven't gotten into what she's done yet, but anyhow, like she's going to be one of the first ones in line theoretically for this NIL NIL deal. So that's why they interviewed her and things of that nature. So especially with women's basketball on the rise now, this is very interesting. I did a little bit more research. So I think they said 30 other states
already have this.
Okay. So that's interesting. I didn't know so many other states were on board with this, and I think it's cool. I don't have a strong take on it because I think it's cool. I think it's for players to be able to make money off of their image and likeness. But I don't think there's a ton of high schools that really. Maybe I'm misplaced on this, but I don't think there's a ton of high schools that really make a ton of money off of their high school athletes. Is that
high schools don't really know? No, I don't think so.
So,
but that's the thing. Okay, like so, this is now a legal thing, but like again, where does it go and where does it come from? Where's this money coming and who's it going to? And so the college which did this, what you have there is you have, for the most part, like big money programs with boosters. They basically like create collectives and sign athletes to the school collective, for certain terms to, make a few appearances, do this or that, and you get X amount of dollars for basically playing for Florida State or playing for Alabama or playing for Miami. And that's where a lot of the money's coming from. Then there's outside money where the school may partner with, a local commercial business, and maybe that, through that they're able to have an arrangement where, players get use of a car or something from, the local Ford dealer, whatever the case might be. And then there's what I thought like the original name, image, and likeness is that if a college level player, and this would go to high school level, like genuinely has a degree of celebrity where they become a viable endorser of products on their own, then that player can capitalize on that. They could sign a deal with Nike, with, Under Armour or whoever, and actually be an endorser and have an endorsement deal. And that's all well and good. The other kind of piece of this that you see is basically like, athletes doing kind of their own merch. They'll sell shirts and hoodies and whatever, branded in something connected to them, and maybe make a few dollars. I don't know how strong an income that is. But so those are basically the avenues. Now let's translate that. Like, how many high schools, have people that are going to willing to shell out money, to kind of direct players to play at a high school? Now you may have that at some private schools. They may have it where they're like, hey, well, whatever. We got, these two kids play AAU with my son, and I know him pretty well. It's like I'm just gonna, pay their tuition and give them a use of a car or whatever, so that they're playing for Trinity Prep or Lake Highland Prep or whatever the case might be. You may see some of that. I'm sure that there will be some people that go that direction. But like, and then maybe kids will feel free to kind of maybe market or do some social media stuff to bring money in if they can. I don't know that it's going to be any like wild out of control thing, except for like the absolute premier athletes. Like if you go back to like when Austin Rivers was in high school, like he was huge. Like he had a national presence. He absolutely could have cashed in at probably a pretty good level, with endorsement money and various things that because of the persona he had at the high school level. And I'm sure there's going to be some athletes that fit that profile. But, it's probably going to be a minority. I mean, this doesn't mean the floodgates open to, third-string tackles at Lake Howell.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of casual people think, and I'll be shocked if it turns into that. I just don't. Yeah. I just don't believe so. And Austin Rivers, the whole package, the whole storm that came, that doesn't grow on trees like the Tebows and the Rivers and some of the high school superstars that we've seen and come across in our time. Those it's once every 10 years or so. I couldn't tell you like the last high school athlete that really, because what happens is what I believe too is like a high school star, like a star, they could be big within that school and a certain parameter, if you will, within that community. But outside of that, I mean, a lot of times people don't know about them because I don't know. Like right now, I don't know any high school star in Central Florida area right now. I don't know any.
Well, if we're looking in terms of like the local high schools, probably not. But like let's look at a guy that probably would have made a bunch of money this year if he could have. Cooper Flagg.
Yeah,
he had a big national profile. And again, there are high schools, in basketball in particular, that played national schedules.
Yeah.
And in doing that, they're on ESPN a handful of times. They do have a bit of like a national footprint that's more than just my local community. And so there's probably going to be some opportunities for guys that operate at that level. And I don't know if you follow it or not, but like on the high school football side, ESPN televises like a number of games of sort of high-profile
They do.
teams.
I don't mean zero, though. I don't mean zero. I'm talking about, like I said, Tebow, Austin Rivers, Cooper Flagg is a good one. Like, there are going to be plenty of high school athletes that are going to get some level of NIL. I'm talking about the cream of the crop.
Well, I mean, Cooper stands out because he had a big national name.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, there's a couple high school, like, not necessarily they were in Florida, but like I think that like some of the quarterbacks as they kind of come up through the ranks.
Yeah.
There's that Underwood guy that's committed to LSU. I think he's got a name, it's developing, it's out there. He could probably funnel that into something. Any of the really high guys. There was that guy, he flipped around from like Georgia to Nebraska, Raiola. He was a 5-star quarterback. I think some of those guys have a chance to kind of carve out some money and have a real presence. And I guess we can't underestimate like the monetizing of social media too for some of these guys.
Yeah. They'll be able to monetize.
I mean, here's another one. Honestly, when he was in high school, Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a monster. I mean, he was in social media a lot. I mean, if it was available to him, he probably could have connected some stuff at that point for sure.
Yeah. Now, the second wave of this, there's just another side of the argument that I talked about it with you off air about high school athletes. They're saying that it's a great thing that they're allowing this because so many top athletes get discarded after, you know what I mean, and as an afterthought, and they just get used and abused and pushed to the side. And I just have absolutely no idea what people are talking about when it comes to that. I mean, because in any walk of life, and especially for high school athletes, it's either you can play or you can't play. If you can't play, you won't play. Like, we're not looking for, science majors and drum majors to come in and if they're not good, they won't be able to play. What, those guys just get pushed to the side and discarded? I don't understand. If you can play well, you're going to play. Now, if you get in and you're playing well, and then you do some dumb stuff off the field, yeah, of course that's going to or not make the grades or whatever the case may be. But if you play high school sports and you're good, you're going to play, and then you're going to go to college. Or if you're really fucking good, you can go pro, depending on what sport you play. So I don't understand that argument.
Well, I mean, you can never forget that athletics is a pyramid. And like, it goes up to the top and it gets narrower and narrower. And there's people that fall off along the way all the time for various reasons. Some people, can't behave right. Some people, stop growing and whatever, they don't ever get to be what, physically what some of their peers become. And I mean, it's just a lot of reasons for it. Some don't really develop. Like, they're good at a certain age, at a certain point, but as the game gets, better, more sophisticated, and other guys put in more work, they kind of get caught and fall behind. And there's just so many reasons that happened. Now, one of the things that I would say, though, and again, it's already part of the sports culture, whether you're talking AAU basketball, club soccer, 7-on-7 football, there's already a mentality out there that kids are constantly trying to find the best opportunity for them. Let me go to this team. Let me try that and do that. Now, this will probably mean here in Florida there's going to be maybe a little bit of money connected to that. That, hey, nobody's going to think twice if they have the resources to say, hey, we'll throw this guy a couple grand to come over here or do this or do that for us. Again, I'm not sure where the money comes from and how much of it is there, but there will be some. There will be, especially early, because people will want to, think they could do something with this. There's a ton of people right now looking at this as an opportunity. Like, well, I can build a super team because I can round up some benefactors and get some kids to come because we'll pay them something. And that's that's gonna happen because people are gonna think it's gonna work. But as the athlete, you can't get lost in chasing short-term dollars for long-term development.
Yeah.
And not like I said, I started this by saying it's a pyramid. Not everybody's gonna get there. There's gonna be a select few that make it to the top of this thing and make a real money out of being an athlete, and the rest are gonna fall off the path at some point. But that development piece, and we talked a couple shows ago about how, really like the European development model for basketball people, probably it's showing to be a little bit more superior right now. They're developing a lot of talents, and they're getting these guys, and they're actually playing pro at 16, 17, 18 years old, and then they're coming to the U.S. to play in the NBA with, 1, 2, 3 years of professional experience, not college, not AAU. And to me, when you're in that setting, it's not about how much money they're making. They're pros. They're getting a contract. I'm sure it's not, not nothing. But it's all about, like, getting your level up to, I'm 16, I'm 17, they're playing me with grown men. I got to find my way and play and make an impact. And then it's like, okay, I've done that. Now the NBA's looking at me. Now I got to go there and prove that I can do that and get to the right level. And those kids are really honestly doing a better job, the ones that are coming here, than some of the other guys. And so, whatever your thing is, and I don't always agree with Gilbert Arenas, but a couple weeks back he was talking about NIL stuff with his son, and he's like, that doesn't matter to us, like that, getting a little bit of money right now, and for him, $100,000-$200,000, whatever, is not worth compromising my son's development, because he's a dog and he's going to get there, and we're not going to spend time chasing that little money because we know where the big money is. And I agreed with him completely.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're a young player, you've got to be driven not by brand, not by short-term dollars. You got to be driven by long-term development.
And unfortunately, it has to be in whatever financial situation you're in.
Yeah.
So, like, I know some people can listen to that and be like, oh, well, Gilbert is already rich and he's already whatever. But regardless of what financial situation you're in, that's if this is truly your thing and you truly want to be great and you truly want to get the big dollars that really matter, you know what I mean? that is the model that you have to follow there.
Yeah.
You have to follow the model of greatness versus short-term dollars in those.
And there's an important thing though too. It's like again, I'm not gonna say that socioeconomics have no role in this, because they do, but like one thing that we do, like as a sporting culture, is we do identify people. I mean, there's enough people at the grassroots level that want to win. That if there's a kid who can play, or there's a kid who's got some physical tools, they're gonna find him. They're gonna get him trained up. They're gonna put him on the team and give him a chance to do something.
Yeah.
There's plenty of dudes that are just desperate to win and desperate to build a brand for their AAU program or 7-on-7 program. So there's not a lot of kids that could play that aren't getting a chance to play purely on economics these days.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things, and I know there's levels to it, and I'm not saying it is 100% point, but that's not as big a concern as you might think on the surface.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. That's for sure. All right, we'll move it along here. Once again, you guys are still on the bench podcast with Bubba and Pink, home of sports, music, and mayhem. We're available on all podcast streaming platforms, including on YouTube. Please like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. All right, here. Let's go here. Let's go to Mbappe here. Okay. Now, first explain the Mbappe news, and you said he's actually played his first match since the move.
Yeah, well, since the move, but not for Real Madrid.
Okay,
so, Kylian Mbappe is a French player. For the last 7 seasons, he's been at PSG, which is the biggest club in France and one of the bigger clubs in the world. But ever since he was a kid, he's had dreams of playing for Real Madrid. And it's been rumored for a couple of years that he's going to go there. And what he did in this situation, though, is normally in soccer, if you're under contract and another team wants you, they have to pay a transfer fee to the club that you're under contract for. And at one point, Real Madrid had offered $200 million to buy him. And the club said no, because they had Messi and Neymar and they wanted to win. And they thought they could, but they didn't. And then what Mbappe did was he signed an extension a couple of years ago and let the extension run down to nothing. So basically, going into this year, at the end of the year, he went to Real Madrid for free. They didn't have to pay any transfer. They just had to negotiate a contract with him. And so his club that turned down the money got nothing for it. So at the beginning of this season, fall of 2023, the club suspended him. The Paris Saint-Germain. They told him that we're not going to play you unless you extend. And he refused. And the club president and owner group was furious. And he came out this week and he said that the coach, Luis Enrique, and basically the general manager, sporting director, they went to the club and they basically allowed it, like they negotiated for him to play this year. And he played this year, but there was some suspicious things where he sat out certain games. Sometimes he got pulled at halftime. And I looking back and based on what he's saying recently, that was probably conceding to pressure because it was never in a meaningful game. But I think that there was internal pressure not to play him and not to, to do certain stuff with him. And so when the coach felt it wouldn't hurt the team, I think he gave in and sat him, and knowing that I'm going to use him for the big games. So he was basically unhappy all year, which is what he said. And so this year, as soon as the season ended, he's now signed with Real Madrid, which is the biggest club in the world. And they just won the Champions League. They lost 2 games all year. So you're and they have an incredibly young core. A guy that I talked about aboard, 20-year-old Jude Bellingham, he's like that. He's on that team.
Yeah.
They have stars upon stars. There's no salary cap. You do whatever the fuck you want when you're Real Madrid. and this is true. Like they're bringing Mbappe like in his prime at 25 years old. They have basically 5 or 6 core guys that play all the time that are under 25, that are under his age. And they've signed the newest Brazilian sensation who's a 17-year-old who's going to come to the club as well at the same time as Mbappe. I don't know where they're going to play all these guys, but it's going to be interesting to see. But Mbappe's absolutely thrilled. He's happy. This is what he wanted. He took less money to sign here.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. He's saying all the right things. He wants to come in humble and play and earn his, in his spot, have the year that he thinks he's capable of. And so this is, exciting news. I mean, somebody asked me to put it in context. Rod did. And I was like, this is kind of like Michael Jordan going to the Warriors.
But not
The
KD.
73-9 Warriors.
But not KD going to the Warriors.
He's better than KD. He's better at football than KD is at basketball.
Oh yeah.
It's not close.
Not close.
Not close.
That's a pretty
This
big
is
statement.
generational, dude. He's 25 years old. He's already scored more World Cup goals than Pele. He had a hat trick in the final of the World Cup.
So you think this is Jordan in his prime?
This is, yes.
Yeah.
So this is exciting.
But the
stuff.
only pushback I will give you is because you said like there is a chance that they could still lose because of soccer.
Well, yeah, I mean they're not unlikely to go undefeated.
Like that was a 0% chance that the KD Warriors were going to lose against anybody. And if you ask me, in my opinion, that's against anybody in the history of the NBA. But definitely against that version of the NBA.
They still lost games.
Yeah, but I mean,
here's the difference.
So you're saying you're saying that they will win the championship of that.
They should win every major trophy next year.
That's what I'm saying.
That would be a stunning upset if they did.
Okay.
But here's the caveat that you got to have. The NBA playoffs, it's 7-game series.
Mm-hmm.
Soccer, you have either a 2-legged tie, home and away, and that's it, or you have like a one-off final, which is one game.
Yeah.
So I mean, in reality, anything could happen in one game. You know that, like,
Yeah.
you have to accept that. And I mean, again, you're also operating in a world where the other teams don't really have salary caps or restrictions either, and there's a couple of other monstrous teams out there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no doubt they're the favorite to win everything.
Okay.
And then today he played for France in a tune-up for Euro 2004. He had a goal and 2 assists. France won 3-0. France is going to be among the favorites to win the Euros, which start next week.
What's up with France, man? They're putting some like top level athletes out there.
They have a lot.
The Frenchmen.
They have a lot of like African immigrants.
Yeah.
And that's what you have. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it was kind of like when they won the World Cup in 2018, the majority of the team had ties to Africa. And like people like half jokingly said this is the first World Cup for Africa.
But even, I mean, but traditionally that hasn't been the case. I mean, you still have African immigrants, right? I mean, I'm is this the first? This is, to my knowledge, this is the first influx of like this level of athletes coming from France. Because Wemby's a Frenchman, right?
Wemby's French.
And then you got
had a
Mbappe.
couple in the past. Like you had Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, Michael Pietrus.
Those guys ain't these guys.
No, they're not. But they were athletes.
They were athletes.
Because again, and you go back to that time when those guys came in the league. The typical European player was a
German,
white guy, Dino Raja or somebody like that. And
German.
it's like French, some of the French guys did this. Now there's like a long, complicated history of race in France as well. I mean, there's a thing where, like when you score a goal, you're a Frenchman. When you miss a penalty, you're a Cameroonian or wherever the hell you came from. That is real. I mean, racism in soccer is prevalent and massive.
And I didn't know that, right?
And I want to add to this too. Like, there's another couple things that have to be considered. At one point, his club that he's just leaving, PSG, Paris, the biggest club in France, their academy, like charges and a suit was brought up because they had race quotas in the academy.
They had to meet.
They would not have more than a certain amount of black players.
Oh wow!
But we had Darnell on the show a long time ago.
Yeah.
He talked about like if you look at like one of the like racially integrated European countries, of which France, England, Netherlands, like if you look at their national team and it's a bunch of white guys, that tells you that there's a problem in the gatekeeping to get to that level. Because when it's not, when it's even close, this is what you get.
Yeah.
It's just a sporting reality.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's what you have. But also, I mean, like, you kind of go to the next level, like the suburbs of Paris, which is where Mbappe comes from, and many of their top players, like that is like that's like South Florida for football. Or whatever. That's the place where people are developed. And there's just a ton of talent that comes through there. There's a ton of talent that comes through there, and like the French team is so loaded that there's dudes that grew up in Paris but could play for other countries and end up playing for other countries because they could play. And they're not going to make the regular French team.
Wow.
I mean, that's how
loaded they are.
They are loaded.
That's crazy.
Like they made the final in the World Cup in 2022, lost to Argentina, but there was there was things where like this would be like you created out of the other teams. There were other French teams. There was like a whole other French team of guys that could have qualified to play for France, like because they basically grew up there, but played for other countries and were big players for those teams.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And also like that's. A lot of people are asking, like, how was Embiid able to qualify to play for France or USA? But, being from Cameroon and the French, like you just said, the France, being immigrated into France.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. Like Mbappe, for example, his father's Cameroonian, his mother, I believe, is Algerian.
Yeah.
And, but, and he, at one point, and here's a story of, like, not getting things done. At one point, he was very young. His father spoke to Cameroon about him playing for the Cameroonian national team, and they wanted him to pay.
At what age are you thinking?
Like probably 16, 17.
So he was already.
Oh yeah. When he was 17, he was in the Champions League scoring goals for Monaco.
Yeah.
Like this is a prodigy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they wanted him to play. For there, and he's like, hell no, we'll go play for France. And then basically 2 to 3 years later, he's a World Cup champion.
Yeah.
2018 at 19 years old, scored in the final. I mean,
so they messed that up.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Oh, man. Maybe they'll get it right next time. Come on, Cameroon. Once again, you guys are on the bench podcast. Moving here swiftly here over to Caitlin, man. Been a hot button topic there.
From the penthouse to the outhouse.
That's what we just did?
Yeah.
So, of course, there's just been a lot of chatter. And what I wanted to take this conversation to, because none of the chatter is about basketball.
Right.
The chatter is about Caitlin being pushed too hard. Caitlin, Charles Barkley wants the WNBA players to kind of let her be her, stop double teaming or picking up full 93 feet because she's getting all these chartered flights for you guys. You got all of this stuff. Then you got Angel Reese getting double tagged out and then saying that she's just as influential as Caitlin Clark. As for people watching the WNBA, all of this stuff that's going on from week to week in the national news, but nobody's talking about, okay, who's the best team in the league? Who's the top scorer? What was this game? What is an analysis of this game, versus these two top teams? Like
because very few people give a shit. Like, it's what it is. Like, what the WNBA is riding off of right now is soap opera, drama, beefs, and that's what they're riding on. It's not the basketball, and it will never be the basketball because the product's not good. And people, they do actually kind of understand that, but they kind of want to deny it if they want to be politically correct. But it's just, the product standing by itself is not compelling enough to that many people. It has an audience of a certain relative size, and it might grow incrementally over time. But the drama, the what have you, I mean, that's what's driving this right now. It's not. Now, I mean, maybe in another universe, like if Caitlin Clark had come in and rattled off a couple 30-point games and took a team, and they're, first or second place in the standings, maybe the narrative's different and maybe the basketball takes, front and center stage, but it's not. And I don't think it ever will. But I do think it's fair. I mean, we all know Caitlin Clark is the white girl in this thing, and that brings eyeballs. That we know that. But I mean, I do think Angel Reese is a part of this. There are people that are, I mean, she's, she's kind of the other side of the equation, and they're not positioned like Magic and Larry, but there's a part that there's people that are going to gravitate toward Angel Reese.
Yeah.
And give more concern about her than Caitlin Clark.
The funny thing is, neither one of them is just not that good.
Yeah.
And that out of all of the scenarios and all of the possible outcomes, I think this was the worst case scenario for the WNBA.
Okay.
Because both of these women came into the league, and they both have struggled. Now you can say, "Oh, they're just rookies," and and then next year you're going to say, "Oh, it's just a second year." The next year, "Oh, she's only 24." You could do that until the cows come home. But the problem is that these two players are just not that good, and that's in comparison to the other WNBA players. That's before we even get to what Pink has traditionally said about just the product of the basketball compared to what we like to watch with our eyeballs as far as entertainment and when we're watching sports. This is just compared to their peers. They're not that good. Compared to the rookies, the star rookies in the past WNBA players, they're not that good. And they needed these two players to come in and be really good. Because when you have these other WNBA players that have been in the league for whatever 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and they're dominating these two players, that's not compelling enough. Because we know these people have been in the WNBA and we haven't cared then.
Right.
So we don't care that so and so dropped 30 on Caitlin. She's been dropping 30 every year.
But I remember, so when they first came to prominence, 2 college seasons ago, I remember asking a couple people. I'm like, hey, are these two like the best players in college basketball at the time? And like I didn't, I got Angel Reese definitely not, and Caitlin might be at the time, and and then I was kind of the other question was so we're not talking about transcendent talents here, and no, we're not, and that's what this is.
Yeah,
this is something that like a perfect storm. It was a white hero. It was a last year's title game where you had the two of them and they had the little exchanges that got eyeballs on them, and then the fact that they both came back into college basketball for a second year essentially together, also kind of get down to the end of the year and play each other, although not in the final again. You had this year-long story that we've been invested in, that's been presented as a rivalry, as black and white, and all that's all the traditional dynamics of getting attention. And now they go into the league and they're at best good players, not transcendent talents. And that's the thing. Like when we just talked about Mbappe, there's like, when you're watching a transcendent talent, it is different.
Yeah,
it's a completely different experience.
So, let me interchange, because we've been putting out clips on YouTube about Caitlin, and this one guy was like, but Wemby was on a terrible team this year. Look at him, So Caitlin is on a bad team just like Wemby. So how can you compare and say that she's not that good? Listen, man. Listen, I know Wemby was on a shit team. I'm a Chet guy, Joel Embiid, 76ers, Luka guy, whatever. But when I watch the Spurs, when I watch Wemby play, I know this is something different. I enjoyed watching him, even though they were losing. Like you know what I mean? It's just a different experience watching him, even in a losing effort. Because it's it's something different. You just know it.
And I'm not a Luka guy, but I know that's a transcendent talent.
Yeah.
Like that, it's just different watching him. He plays in a way that's just not normal. And like again, you the narrative of like the Trae Young trade and anybody else that was in that draft.
Yeah.
Like everybody looks like an imbecile because they didn't see this.
Yeah.
And that's how clear it is. And like Trae Young's not a bad NBA player.
No.
And some of the other guys in that class are maybe okay, maybe get to an All-Star game or something, but there's not one of them that can hold Luka's jockstrap.
All right.
And if you know what you're looking for, you should have seen it.
Yeah.
There's no question. Ayton went first in that draft. who doesn't regret that?
Exactly.
I mean, that's a fucking joke.
It is.
And that's the thing. And there was a moment too, and like I know Chet was drafted the year before, but like Chet, this was his first year, and for the first maybe 2 months, those guys were finding their way, and Chet was on a little bit of a better team, and there might have been a statistical advantage at one window of time, but then like over the course of it, you see more. No, this is different.
Yeah.
Like grown men are afraid to shoot layups with this guy anywhere near him. This is different. He's casually knocking in threes, and just the way he moves, it doesn't look normal at all.
Yeah.
And that's what you're seeing, and that's what you're drawing your eye to, and just the reality is the WNBA does not provide that. They don't come close to providing that, and they never will. It's because there's levels to things, and they're just the women operate and play at a different level. It doesn't mean it can't be appreciated or shouldn't be appreciated for what it is, but if you're talking about luring in people that are casuals, people that are just going to check into something, hoping to see something special and maybe stick around, that's not happening.
Because I've tried, man. I tried last night.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nothing on. I had finished the series the day before, so last night I had absolutely nothing to watch, and I said, let me check Angel Reese out and the team. That was the game she actually got double text and got thrown out the game.
Yeah.
In that fourth quarter, and it was like watching paint dry, man. I couldn't believe that I couldn't find anything better to watch on TV.
Yeah.
It was a shame on me. I was blaming myself that I didn't find anything better to watch. It was tough, man.
And
it was really tough.
One of the funny, we had Kamar on here maybe a month or so ago, and he's a women's basketball fan. He enjoys it. He coaches girls basketball, and he's into it. He's been into it for a while, and he tweeted the other day that like he's not happy that all they're talking about is the drama around the game, and they're not talking about the games, because he's invested in that situation. I mean, he cares. He knows the stories, the players. He gives a crap about who's having a good season and who's not, and that's fine. But like when you want something to blow up, it's not your friends and family. It's not the people that already believe in it. It's when your reach goes to people that did not give a crap about it, and somehow they do now.
Yeah.
That's when things explode.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, when the next crazy, beef or fight or push happens, we'll talk about it. Not sure.
Give it 48 hours.
Not sure we're going to do many WNBA game analysis on this. We're not going to be covering the playoffs or anything. Yeah. All right. Well, at least Pink hopes not.
Yeah. Hey, for the next month, I'm focused on football, soccer.
On soccer, okay. The original football.
Original football.
All right. Let's get to this part 2 of the Atlanta series of stories here. All righty. You ready?
Yeah, I've been ready. Came out the coochie ready.
Came out the coochie ready. All right. So, yes, if you missed last week, I'm starting this series of when I was in Atlanta, okay? And so it's going to be about 3 or 4 parts here. Now, last week I told the story about when I visited Atlanta for the first time, right? My cousin got me up there just for a little while here and for a weekend, and I told that story. You can go back on YouTube or social media, catch that, okay? Now, I come back on this long 9-hour megabus ride, and I'm back in Orlando. I'm back in my version of hell, okay?
Did you make any friends in the megabus?
No, I didn't make any friends.
Did you just kind of go like headphones on and keep to yourself? Or?
Yeah, it's hard to even go to sleep on that thing, man. You got to stay eyes open.
Oh, yeah.
You got to stay eyes open, man. All right, so, the interesting thing is I go about a month or so to back to regular scheduled programming, okay? and over that course of time, I didn't know, but my cousin had been talking with his wife about possibly moving me in. Totally different conversations. I'm not privy to that. I'm back in my regular scheduled program. So after a month or so, when I'm back from my visit, my cousin gives me a call. Says, "Hey man, so what do you think? You had fun? What's going on?" And and I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Man, you don't even know." And I'm laughing in my head because he doesn't know about the car.
Yeah.
About me being the girl in the car. Like, man, you don't even know, man. I really enjoyed myself in the lab.
I went to Pound Town in your wife's back seat.
And so he's like, "Man, you just need to come up here." He's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, of course, I'm dying here. And I'm dying a slow death." He's like, "Well, you just need to move up here, man. Make it happen, do this." I say, "Man, yeah, maybe I should. Maybe I do." Now, last week, I told a small fib, and I said the only things I had going for me was my mom still here, and then also I was in my physical, sexual peak of pride. Well, another thing I had going, okay, was I did have this older girl I was talking to, and she was a freak of nature. Okay, and I don't mean Wemby or LeBron. I'm talking about She was something special. Okay, and she would do all of these different things. I told this story about the grapefruit. That was this particular woman here, and she would do all of this. I'm talking about do the grapefruit challenge on me, whipped cream, candy, anytime, anywhere, any day. Give me a head while I'm playing the video game, watching TV. Like all of this I had, and I didn't really appreciate it at that time. Okay.
Did she eat an M&M out of your booty hole?
And I didn't appreciate it at that time.
We'll take that as a yes. I didn't hear a denial.
And I do appreciate it. No, I haven't had that since. Okay. And so what happens is I make the decision. This whole story is about the decision and the mistakes I made along the way. So I make the decision to go. We're on the radio at this time doing the show.
That's right.
Okay, so we're on the radio doing On the Bench podcast, or at the time On the Bench radio show. And so I had make the decision. I let you know, like, hey man, I think I'm about to go to Atlanta, move to Atlanta for real. Okay. And then instead of telling the girl that I'm going to move to Atlanta, what I do is I go over to her house, and in my mind, what I do is I have a last farewell session, and and she don't know what's going on.
In your mind.
She don't know what's going on, but I want to do everything right now, and I want to pull out all the stops here.
Damn, Bubba, you seem particularly inspired tonight.
And so then I leave. All of this happens within like 3 days. I let you know, and then and then another. And then I leave her house. Right, I leave her house, go back home. I pack.
Did you meet your own expectations that night?
I did. I exceeded them.
Oh, there you go.
I pack. I do all of that stuff.
Did you, like, when you left her house, like, see you tomorrow? Like, what?
Yeah, I'll call you when I get home. Just a regular.
Maybe our paths will cross again.
No, just a regular meeting there as far as what she knows. Okay. Another thing is that was Thursday. That Friday, I get to work. Now, I should have been extra and just really laid it all out with my manager and the director and everything. I should have been more. I should have had a black man exit.
Okay.
But I took the quiet way out. I didn't leave a notice or anything, and so I let them know I was leaving that day.
You left a note?
No, I said I left. I didn't leave a notice.
Oh, okay.
But I told them, hey, this is my last day here. Whatever. Because I detailed that last week while I was upset at my job or whatever. All right, I leave that same night. Okay, I had already taken care of the family part, told them everything. When I get to Atlanta, I called a girl, and I said, hey, I'm in Atlanta. I'm not coming back.
That was it? That's like a direct quote?
I'm in Atlanta.
Wow.
I'm not coming back. That's a mistake. I shouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done it that way. And, and when I told the stories about being stalked and all this and that, I didn't add that in. I'm sure that played a part in her mind, and we'll get to that a little later. Okay?
Would it be fair to say though that like up until that moment she thought she was in a relationship?
I think so. Not in a relationship, but she thought it was going somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, she thought it was going somewhere. I had already met her kids. I had met her mom.
Oh boy.
I mean, of course, not at my request, but yeah, I done that already, and played video games with her son.
Bubba shows up bug naked with a 4-pack of wine coolers, and mom's on the couch. Bubba, it's my mother.
So yeah, she thinks everything is going awesome. Okay, and she's probably already building marriages and fucking third child, naming Bubba Jr. and all of that in her head. So she's pissed, of course, right? And I knew that. That's why I delayed it. I delayed it to the absolute last minute, right?
So when you say your quote, like, was there like immediate indignation, or was there like a moment of just silence?
Yeah, moment of silence. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And then, of course, I get cursed out, and then there's just calls and text messages that entire day. Calls and text messages. And the whole time, I'm trying to get settled in here. I fucked that up, okay? All right, so now, I'm moving here. I got my old Jeep here, and I'm there. I'm broke and I'm poor, okay? So I have a couple dollars in my pocket when I get there on a long ride. What's also interesting is while I was driving there was actually I didn't know because I wasn't watching the news. There was a fucking hurricane.
I remember that. Like people were trying to leave.
Yeah, people were trying to leave.
I remember. I was like,
Orlando and Florida.
I think you called me and I was like, God, Bubba's gonna get fucked here.
I really did, man. So whatever, 6-7 hour drive turned into like a 12-hour drive. You know what I mean? It was just a billion cars on the road. I picked the wrong weekend to move.
Yeah, with that, you could have played everything so much different.
Yeah.
You could have just told her, like, oh, I'm feeling really nervous about the hurricane. I'm evacuating to Atlanta, and then call back a few days later. My home was destroyed. I'm going to have to stay here for a little while. Feel free to visit. And then a week or two later, oh, I've got a job I can't pass up. My career's going in the right direction.
It's going in the right. Yeah, couldn't have been mad at me at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had so many options.
So many.
Well, with the, hey, I'm in Atlanta and I'm not coming back.
So, right. So I'm there.
Give your mother my regards. Salt, please.
She could drink the last wine cooler I left in the refrigerator. So I'm there in Atlanta now, okay, with my cousin, his family. All right. And, what's funny about on the first day when I get there is my cousin, the conversation he had with me. It's one that is important to have, and it's funny, but, I'm not sure you need to have it with your friends and family, and that's my problem because I don't. So people take advantage of you is what I'm trying to say. So he sits me down, he says, listen, men only, fall out mostly over two reasons, especially family and friends, right? One is money, two is coochie. This is exact words.
Yeah.
He says, the money part, don't worry, I got you. You know what I mean? I got you. You're my responsibility. I got you here. As long as you're trying to get a job doing this and that, you covered. Don't worry about it. He says, coochie, you can't fuck with my wife. Whatever she say goes, and funny shit, of course, or it's gonna be a big problem.
That's great.
And and so we had that. That was it. And as far as that conversation goes, and then I'm there. I'm getting.
So did he really think you might take a shot at the wife?
No, but it's just it is a conversation you have to have because people, people are just weird, man. Even like I said, he's my cousin. His dad and my dad are brothers. You know what I mean? But it's like, we haven't hung out together since we were kids. He's been in Atlanta for whatever, 10, 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm there, and then I really began. What I would do is every day I would dress up, same suit, and my plan would be to go to the library, and then from the library I would go downtown Atlanta, the network. Every single day, that's what I would do. Now, one day I was at the library, and somebody called the police on me. Okay.
Was you in the library?
No, I mean, I'm sorry, because in the morning I would get up very early, so I would go to the library, sit in the parking lot, and wait for the library to open.
Okay.
Okay. So somebody called the police on me because it's like whatever, some black guy is in the parking lot
in a suit,
and it's a weird activity.
We think he has some bad intentions for the library. He might ban a few books.
So the police comes up to the car, and this is what I mean. He's a black policeman, and this is like further further indication of black people in Atlanta is just the networking, and everyone wants to help everybody. So the police comes over. He's like, "Hey, I've got a complaint about you. So what's going on here, man? What are you doing here?" I tell him, "Hey, I just moved here. I come to the library every day, apply for jobs. Now I go to Atlanta and network."
So you were going to the library to apply for jobs?
Yeah, I was going to the library.
You didn't
to
have
apply for
a
jobs.
computer at the house that you could.
No computer. No.
Oh, okay. I was a little puzzled by the library.
No computer at the house, but not only that, I don't know. I just feel like going to the library to do stuff. And that's another thing too. I don't want to be in the house, even if I am applying for jobs. It's just I think it's a bad look to be just. I think so. To be in the house, you don't have a job. Everybody's going to work. You know what I mean? And you're just sitting up in the house under the AC, eating all the food and not doing anything.
The pantry is undefended. There will be no snacks left by the time these people return.
So really, it might have been a laptop. I'm sure there was a laptop in the house, but my mind, I'm trying to get out and be under the impression that I'm doing stuff, which I actually am. But I
would be a little unsettled by an overdressed guy at the public library.
And apparently they were
during business hours.
Apparently they were.
And why would you go well before the library opened? Like, what was the thinking there?
Oh, because the people are leaving the house.
You'd have to leave at the same time.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen. I don't know these people for real. Like I know my cousin, but you know what I mean. He got his wife, got his wife's mom.
Wait right till they all leave, then you can take your morning dump, and then maybe check out right before the library opens.
So the police comes to the car. All right, and like I say, I'm explaining to him what my routine is, and his first thought is like to help me. You know what I mean? He's like, "Oh, so what are you into? What industry are you into?" And I tell him, "Well, really, I have my degree in human resources, so I'm looking for recruiting jobs, but also I have a dream of writing and things of that nature." He's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "My wife is into this." He calls his wife on the phone. He's like, "Hey man, I got this." He said, "Hey baby, I got this young guy here. He's into this. He's into that. You think he can help?" And he has on speaker, and she's like, "No, I don't think so, but I think so and so can help. Give him his number." So he hangs up with his wife, calls this other guy's number. He's like, "Yeah, give him my number." Da da da. So then I get the number for the guy who's supposed to have this connection. Didn't pan out, but still, it's just the thought of this police.
Right.
Doing all of this, and he's like, "Okay, hey man, don't worry about the call. I'll let him know, whatever. Just best of luck to you." Okay, and that right there is like that situation, that little whatever. Was my Atlanta experience. Like it seems like everybody wants to help versus Orlando and anywhere else I've been where that's just not the case. You don't even speak to a stranger. Yeah, if you don't know them.
and for as much as we criticize the police and bash them, shout out to that officer.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what we're like. When we say we want better, that's protecting and serving the community.
Yeah.
Like he assessed the situation and turned something into a potential positive instead of an escalation of vulgarities and profanities and violence. I mean, well done, well played.
Yeah, it is. Now, from there, I go about 3 months or so with no job, no money, and of nothing. And my cousin, one thing about my cousin, he never put pressure on me, which was so like crazy to me in my mind. And I'm like, every day I feel the weight of the world on my shoulder. Like I need to be doing something. And he allowed me to go, like I'm going after the top, whatever, I'm going after my profession, the HR jobs and things of that nature first. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go a period of time of that, and then I'm going to take a shit job afterwards, and then go from there.
Right.
Okay. Now, over the course of my going after the library, I would go to Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, and I would go and network in the same suit every day. And so this particular time, there was this older Hispanic guy just saw me walking, and he said, "Hey, what are you into? What do you do?" And I'm telling him, hey, I'm looking for human resource jobs, this and that. And he's actually a part of the ownership of Pollo Tropical that was bringing all of those units to Atlanta. They were going to try to test the market.
They didn't have Atlanta at all.
At all.
Okay.
They were testing the market, and they were going to put up a few stores in Atlanta. So he was like, "Oh man, this is perfect. You could come over here with us and help us with onboarding people, recruiting, and getting people in, and things of that nature. And we'll just give you the title of assistant manager of a store or something. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
So I go through the interview process like right there right there with him, and just because he saw me in a suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dressing for success.
Yeah. Now in my mind, I'm like, "Oh man, this is great. This is awesome." I go home, everybody's excited, everybody's happy for me. And it turned out to be the exact opposite type of situation. Really? Not exact opposite, but I was like in the fucking trenches working. I wasn't doing any fucking recruiting or onboarding. I was in the deep freezer. I'm taking out trash. Cleaning fucking toilets. I'm doing everything. But whatever. I'm sticking it out. And I am on the assistant manager little pay or whatever, which is not a ton, but it's okay. And but I come across some of the worst managers I've just ever been around, and that's what's really getting to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I had this one Hispanic lady who was my manager, and she was the fucking worst, man. Like everything you would do, she wanted it a different way or wanted it better. She only had complaints. She didn't. Anytime you did something good or something, you stayed, whatever. She never had anything positive to say. So we always butted heads. Always butted heads.
Yeah.
Now, but the good thing about having this little gig now, it's got a little money in my pockets. Now I can get back to seeing some Atlanta women. Okay.
Hey.
All right. I feel good about that. So the girl that I had the experience with when I visited, this is another mistake I made. I did not reach out to her anytime from that period, from when I had the experience up until I had moved there and got this job. So we're talking over the span of now like 6 months or whatever, from the time it took me to move to Atlanta and the time for me to find a job. Because in my mind, I'm broke, I'm poor, and I was telling her like, yeah, I got this degree, I'm going to come here and I'm going to do this and that. And I wasn't doing any of this and that. And so I didn't reach out to her at all. But the day I got that job, I texted her, called, and she was like, "Who is this?" And I was like, "Oh, shit." Yeah. She hit me with the "Who is this?"
Who is this?
So that didn't pan out.
Kind of took the wind out of your sails
right away, man. Yeah, right away, that was a no-go.
You're not a very good fisherman, Bubba. Got to keep the lines in the water to catch anything.
Yeah, I know. I took the lines out. And so that didn't come to fruition there.
Yeah. No, round two. Round one only.
Yeah, but I got on the online.
What's my number?
Got back on the day naps, okay, and all of that good stuff. Now,
did your profile include recently employed?
Go get you some free Spanish chicken. I'm handing them out by the boatloads. Now, I'll end the story on this because the next stories are going to be, some of the women I was dealing with from this point, and then the relationship, you know what I mean, and then the ending there. So as I'm working with Pollo Tropical, and I'm at that point now where I'm doing okay, and I'm getting on the online dating apps. The thing about the online dating apps in Atlanta is that it's such a large radius, because some people can live in Atlanta, some people can live on the outskirts, right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes you end up, and the traffic is, if something is 10 minutes away, it's going to take you 30 minutes to get there. Like, the traffic is awful. You know what I mean? And when I get to date these different women, it's almost like people scare you with the some could be men you got to watch out for.
Oh, the Adam's apple.
But you have to watch, because but it's not like, I didn't come across any of that. Like,
really,
I didn't come across any of that. I really didn't even come across that many, like, homosexuals, if you will. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't in that part of town. I don't know. I feel like that's a little overstated for for Atlanta. You know what I mean? But you hear that a lot, right?
They get a bad rap, maybe.
Yeah, they get a bad rap. They get a bad rap. So that's one thing I'll say there, and that's where I'll end it. Now, the next week, some of these interesting women that I came across there is what I'll get into there, and that'll be fun.
Good.
That'll be fun, but we'll stop it there.
Oh, that's
All right.
funny.
All right. Now, what you say? Last week was better than this week?
Well, story-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some action.
You had a little action here.
What action do we have?
The freak in the beginning.
The freak in the beginning. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, the story went on so long, I forgot. I felt like I was in a dry spell.
But that's what it was. It was,
Yeah,
what I mean? It was a dry spell. So, what can you do?
Yeah.
But it didn't last forever.
I think you got to stay active, even when the chips are down. Like, you got to keep a line in the water. You can't, even like, you're not in a good financial place or whatever. I think the lesson you take from that is you still got to stay active in some way.
I don't think you can. I'm not gonna say I don't think it can. It's tough.
Oh, it's tough, but I think you just can't give up that whole aspect of your life. Market yourself a little bit differently.
What do you market yourself at?
I mean, there are guys that just, like, they don't have jobs and they still get girls. Like, whatever. They drive around in their, 2020 Sonata or whatever.
Yeah.
The guys figure it out. I don't know.
They figure it out. I guess I was afraid to figure it out.
Well, what I took from it is that when you were in the bad financial place, it was kind of like you just kind of like shrunk away from it. Like, you just pulled back and just you didn't hit up the girl that you had met, or
in my mind it's zeroing in on getting a gig or getting
Yeah, I don't know. You just never
finances
know.
Together. Yeah.
I don't know. There's just you never know, and it keeps you sharp, man. Keeps you sharp. Knife doesn't sharpen itself, Bubba.
No, it doesn't. It does not. One of the last things I had for us here before we got off, I thought this was interesting. 10 signs your mind is sharper than the average person. So what I wanted to do was see if your mind is still sharper than the average person. Would you say it is? I'm going to go through this article.
I'm 10 for 10. The average person is a millimeter from retardation.
Now, I need you to be honest.
Okay.
All right.
I try to be.
Number 1 is quick decision making. That is a key hallmark of the sharp mind, is the ability to make quick and effective decisions. What do you think about yourself in that regard?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Clear mind, quick decisions, firm decisions, keep it moving. And you kind of like rep through things, like when you're not even in the moment to make that decision.
Yeah.
Like you will listen to, I can't help but listen to a story that you're telling me, and I'm making decisions in the story. That's how my mind works.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why would he do that? I'm not always saying everything out loud, but that's like, that was a terrible decision. Why didn't he do this?
Yeah. Okay, number 2 is a obsession with learning. Okay. Another indication of a sharp mind is the thirst for knowledge.
I think that's perspective. I agree that it is a thing of a sharp mind. I think that I do that, but I do that in narrow fields at this point in my life.
Right.
There's a lot of things that I have just deemed like not worthy of my time or energy, and I'm not going to try to learn about them.
Yeah.
Now, my kids will tell you that I'm closed-minded because of that, but I still have like immense like interest in certain things and continue to devour information.
Number 3, adaptability. Adaptability is another defining trait of a sharp mind. What do you think? To be able to adapt to different environments, challenges.
Agree completely. Completely. That was for me like one of my biggest, I think, transformations as like in coaching was you go into a game and you have like a game plan or you have a vision of how the game's going to play out, and it's healthy to visualize, both as playing and even coaching, but you get a lot better when you can make rapid decisions and adapt to what's happening as it's happening, and not waiting until because what I would always say is like when I was at a certain point, like all my best coaching adjustments were on the ride home, and we should have done that, we should have done that. But then you get to a point when you're doing it right, where you're making changes and adapting as the game unfolds, and the quicker you do that, you gain advantage over your opponent.
Number 4, spotting patterns. Okay, the ability to spot patterns is another characteristic of a sharp mind. This isn't just about recognizing visual designs, but also about identifying trends, habits, and sequences in various
behavioral
contexts.
patterns.
Yeah.
No, I do that all the time.
You can spot them. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 5. I don't know. This is going to be tough now. A high level of empathy. A sharp mind isn't all about intellect. It's also about emotional intelligence.
I have empathy where empathy is appropriate. I don't have empathy for ignorance.
Yeah.
I don't have empathy for stupidity. I don't have empathy for people that put themselves in stupid positions. But I can empathize with things that are unjust.
Yeah.
That are just fundamentally wrong, and somebody's been wrong in that, and so it's there, but again, it's limited to a degree. I'm not going to extend empathy to somebody I don't deem worthy of it.
Yeah. Number 6 is the one you might like. Resilience in the face of adversity. So life can be tough, but those with sharp minds often have an extraordinary ability to bounce back from adversity.
You have to.
Yeah.
One of the things I like, Mike Norvell, like his big thing is respond. It's like it just echoes through the program, and because no matter what happens, like the only legitimate thing that you can do is respond. Like unless you're going to choose to lay dead and just give up, and just not do anything, your only choice is to respond.
Yeah.
And the thing is you can't let your emotions get the better of you, because your emotions want you to wallow. Your emotions want to consume you. And that consumption equates with inactivity. But when you think logically and you get through the emotions, like I could be sad, I could be hurt, I could be in pain, I could be all these things, but nothing's changing that I have to do something.
Yeah.
And when you figure that out, it changes everything. Some people, it's like a bad thing happens to them and they're done for days. But it's just not realistic.
Number 7, excellent memory recall. So it's not just about remembering facts and figures, but also about recalling experiences, conversations, and feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's big. There was a thing I read a book several years ago. It was kind of about like greatness, and one of the things that they talked about is like when somebody's on a pathway toward greatness, one of the things that they will hopefully encounter is what they called a master coach. And a master coach is somebody that's been, in the field, in the area for a long time. And what they have is they've built up literally like a memory bank of all these different things that they can draw from to help you get to where you need to go. Because it's not like every pathway is not the same. It varies, it changes, but it's like if I could pull something out, from a different scenario or that was some parallel to where your mind is right now or where your skills are right now, and give that to you, that's immensely valuable.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you don't have the ability to kind of like remember, catalog these experiences, techniques, stories, whatever at a pretty good level.
All right. Number 8, when daydreaming. So while often seen as a sign of distraction, daydreaming can actually indicate a sharp mind.
Are those wet dreams or dry dreams? Daydreaming.
Linked to a highly active brain. Do you daydream at all?
Not often, I would say. Like, I really don't.
Yeah.
I focus on staying like in the moment. I think it's a healthier place to be. So like whatever you're doing, you try to do that to the best that you can. And I also kind of have like the running, like schedule of responsibilities. Too.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, I mean, you try, it's, to me, it's more about not so much daydreaming. I don't do that a lot, but it's like, okay, what am I doing right now that I need to be effective at? And then like, what other, things do I have to get done this day?
Yeah.
And so you're kind of toggling all those things.
Exactly. Enjoying solitude. So while many see solitude as something lonely or sad, those with sharp minds often cherish it.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think that there's the solitude does allow you to think. Maybe like daydreaming might be a little connected in that.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
there's times when you're like when you are by yourself. I have like a Tesla, so I end up charging the thing, and a lot of times when I'm charging, I walk. And I walk by myself.
Yeah.
It might be 30 minutes, might be an hour, whatever. And like for me, that time is I always enjoy that. Like I don't have to, to engage somebody in conversation. I can kind of be in my own thoughts, and whether it's kind of working out how I want to approach a situation or something like that. So I could see that.
Number 10, and lastly, lifelong curiosity. Perhaps the most significant sign of a sharp mind is an enduring sense of curiosity.
That's Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Be curious, not judgmental.
Yeah, be curious and not judgmental.
Yeah. No, that is that. I mean, and that's the beauty of that scene.
Yeah.
Because that rings 100% true. Like if you legitimately feel like you have all the answers and can't review something and look at it, or want to understand something better, or nothing like interests you, that your mind is dead.
Yeah.
But if you could watch something and it kind of catches your attention and you kind of want to like figure it out, learn more about it, or what have you, or you're just, if somebody's telling you a story, or you're reading something or watching something that's giving you information, and you want to, it fuels a fire to do more. What I think I talked about this before. Like for me, like one thing that commonly happens is like I'll find something. Like I remember like the first time I heard Sam Cooke sing and knew what it was back in the day. They would have these like commercials where they would have like 5 album sets of various music, and they had gospel music. And while they're running the commercial for $19.99, you could get 5 albums, the greatest gospel hits ever. They're playing songs, and they played Sam Cooke, "Touch the Hem of His Garment," and I just was blown away by the voice. And I'm like, who's that? And I like started researching and looked him up, and then like found all his music, became like a huge fan, and all this other stuff. And it was just kind of out of that thing of like I'm watching some shitty commercial, and next thing you know, I've identified my favorite musical artist in history.
Became a fan of Sam, but not a fan of gospel music.
Gospel music is the only redeeming element of church. The actual preaching is like,
because some of the best singers, man, come from that church, man.
Oh, it is a tremendous breeding ground for musical talent.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think there's a better breeding ground for it, because you get to play, in a setting. Usually it's free. Maybe you make a few dollars here or there. But like, typically a church needs a band, and they're willing to give somebody the opportunity to do something and show what they could do. And it's, you have a captive audience. So it's like you don't have to rely on, putting butts in seats like where the ward will do that. So you just, and you can do that. You can experiment, and typically you're around other musicians. My son, he was in a church band for a while with Pastor Brian, who's a friend of mine.
Oh yeah.
And it was a really great experience. Pastor Brian could really sing, and he kind of became a lot musically, and it was just really a good experience. But I would go for like the musical parts, and then I'd have to leave during the preaching. I gotta get the hell out of here. I couldn't take it, man. I love Pastor Brian. He's my guy. I'm gonna send him this clip for sure. But like the actual preaching, like when you say like the first 2 words of a sentence and repeat it 8 times, I can't handle that. I cannot handle that. Like that just doesn't.
That's like universal almost for like preaching.
Oh God,
you
yeah.
know what I mean?
There's so many devices to it. It's like high level palm reading. Like you're just kind of throwing shit out there and hoping it resonates. You keep everything kind of general enough so that the audience can, in their mind, they're processing it to their experience and what they're going through.
Yeah.
And they feel like you're speaking to them, but you're actually you're speaking to everybody. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Because one of their main they're supposed to be entertaining. One of their main jobs is to entertain that crowd. If you will.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, preaching the word or whatever, but it has to be in an entertaining way.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you
You're not
cultivate
trying to
bigger
bore
crowds.
people to death over there.
Yeah, man.
You know, though, I see it goes full circle with Sam Cooke. So one of the first couple times I went there, Pastor Brian was singing "Were You There?" and it's a gospel song Sam Cooke did, and he changed one of the lyrics. And after he was finished singing, I kind of went up and talked to him. I go, I love the Sam Cooke, but why did you change the lyric? And the look on his face was like, he almost fell over. He's like, how did this guy know I changed the lyric? I'm like, I know fucking Sam Cooke songs, like all of them. Like, you know.
Oh, man.
And then it was funny, like, there was another thing, like, I think I could have a career in music for real, but no, I don't have any talent. But like, no. But here's what happened. So, Pastor Brian has a big voice, and he would start most of the songs, and then he would let other people sing behind him. And I'm like, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like, you just murdered these people, and it sounds terrible. And I said, you gotta like go to Boys to Men, because like Wanye brings all the songs home. I'm like, let these other guys carry the load early, but you bring it home. You know, these guys are not capable.
Pastor Brian?
Pastor Brian. Yeah.
So he can sing.
Oh, he's great.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, he could really sing.
Oh, man, pastors who can sing, man.
He annihilated the other singers.
Yeah.
Like, it was awful.
Yeah.
You know, he needed to be at the back of the song to bring it home.
Oh, man.
And I told him, I think he made some changes after that. That was my contribution to church.
Oh, man.
I gave you something.
Yeah.
Don't say I didn't give you anything.
Well, we'll be back next week. We got to figure out because so you got the game. You got a game tomorrow, Thursday. Then you have another game Sunday. And then game 3 is that Wednesday.
Oh, really?
So I don't know if we're going to do an early show or try to do a Tuesday, Thursday show.
Okay.
We'll figure it out when that time comes.
Stay tuned. Be ready.
That's right. Be ready so you don't have to get ready.
That's right.
We'll catch you guys next week.
That's it.